Just before we start, very simple thing. Please turn off or turn to silent your mobile phones, of course. That's all I need to say. And is the live stream running? Hello, everybody out there in live stream world. My name is Nod Knowles, the administrator of Europe Folk Network. But let's start as we mean to go on in this beautiful, beautiful, wonderful Hungarian heritage house. And I'd like to introduce the director of the house, Mr. Laszlo Karaman.
Dear guests, welcome to Budapest. For best acknowledgement, I will talk in Hungarian, and I have someone to translate. A mi történetünk az EFN-nel Glasgow-ban kezdődött.
Our history with EFN started in Glasgow.
Akkor, amikor meghívottként részt vettünk a Glasgowi fesztiválon, azt gondoltuk ott a kelta barátokkal, hogy össze kéne fogjunk, hiszen Európa szélén a hagyományos kultúra még mindig nagyon élő és jelentős erőt képvisel.
When we participated the Glasgow Festival as guests, we were thinking with the Celtic friends that we should make a cooperation, a collaboration together, just to make the tradition still living.
Mint látják, itt Magyarországon nem csak mozgalma, a táncház mozgalom van a hagyományos népi kultúrának, hanem egy intézménye is, ez a Hagyományok Háza.
Maybe you will see, or you still know, that in Hungary there's a huge movement which is called a dance house movement, which started very, very long ago, and we still have that. And not just we have a movement, but we have a whole institution for that.
A Hagyományok Háza 20 évvel ezelőtt indult, mégpedig abból a felismerésből, hogy ha hagyjuk, hogy ne élő módon adják át a kultúrát a különböző generációk egymás között, akkor engedjük, hogy ez visszaszoruljon a múzeumok halott anyagai közé.
The Hungarian Heritage House was founded 20 years ago, and the aim is to get together the Hungarian folk traditions and to make it living in everyday life, because as all of us see, that it's going to disappear. It's disappearing, and if we leave it like this, it's going to be put on the shelf of a museum.
A Hagyományok Háza ezzel alatt a 20 év alatt nagyon sok munkát elvégzett már, de még rengeteg tennivalónk is van. Most végre talán elég erősek vagyunk ahhoz, hogy ehhez a tiszteletre méltó társasághoz csatlakozhassunk.
We have a lot of work that has been done, but we have more to do. We are strong, and our aim is to do everything just to get together with this marvelous collaboration.
A Hagyományok Háza felhívnám arra is a figyelmüket, hogy nem csak itt Magyarországon van jelen, hanem a környező országokban is már. Így hálózatot működtetünk Szlovákiában, Romániában, Ukrajnában és Szerbiában is.
We are not just present in Hungary, but throughout the whole Carpathian Basin, for example, Slovakia and Romania. I mean, throughout these countries. It's a network.
És ennek a hálózatnak természetesen ott van létjogosultsága, ahol magyarok élnek, de az, amivel foglalkozunk, az nem csak a magyar népi kultúra, hanem az együtt élő nemzeteknek a kultúrája is.
These networks, these institutes are very present where Hungarians live actually, but it's not only for the Hungarian culture, but for the minorities also and other cultures that live throughout the Carpathian Basin.
Én csak remélni tudom, hogy az az egyensúly, ami az elmúlt időszakban megbomlani látszik, a lokális és a globális között, az az önök tevékenységével is, és a mi aktív részvételünkkel is helyre fog tudni állni.
We really hope that our work together with your collaboration and with your network, we are strong enough to maintain this throughout the European region.
Sajnálom, le kell fordítanom. That's a very important balance between the local subsidiarity and the globalism. And this balance should be, I think, in the next few years restored, make it in a balanced way. And for this, I hope we will work fruitfully together. So, én magam viszont itt a Hagyományok Háza élén ezt a munkát pénteken befejezem.
This Friday, I will finish my work at the top of this institute this Friday in two days.
Ennek semmi más oka nincs, csak az, hogy én magam is népzenész és zeneszerző lennék.
And there's no other reason, just because I'm also a musician and a composer.
Nagyon nagy szeretettel gondolok arra a sok jó fesztiválra, ahol a keltákkal együtt tudtunk bulizni hosszú-hosszú órákon keresztül. Velük tudtuk a legjobban.
I think about very great parties with the Celtic friends, and I think about them a lot of times because that was a so great pleasure for me.
De engedjék meg, hogy megköszönjem, hogy idejöttek, érezzék jól magukat Budapesten, itt az intézményben, és hogy bemutassam az utódomat is. Lehet, hogy többen önök közül ismerik, szintén zenész.
Thank you for the opportunity to have this conference here, and let me show the next General Director of the Hungarian Heritage House.
Miklós Bot.
Miklós Bot.
Köszönöm szépen mindenkinek, és remélem, hogy még sok jó buliban leszünk együtt, mert ne felejtsük el soha, szépek a konferenciák, de a legjobbak a muzsikák.
Thank you for the opportunity to have me open this conference. Conferences are good, but I really hope that we are going to have great parties together in the future.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Laszlo. And 20 years in working in this house, what an incredible privilege and pleasure it must be to be the director of such a beautiful place. So you've made a fantastic job. And certainly working with all of your staff here in the course of the last few weeks, planning for this at very short notice, we've been very delighted at just how fantastic your colleagues are, as well as you as director. So thank you. I should have said, I think probably most people know, my name is Nod Knowles. I'm the acting administrator of the European Folk Network. But let me introduce now one member of the board. I should say, and we have just heard by text that our chairman, David Francis from Scotland, has been delayed because of the aircraft delays in, not in Scotland actually, but in England. He had to fly down to a London airport. And unfortunately, Wizz Airlines have delayed him, and he won't be here until this evening at the Phono Music House. Fortunately, most of our board members are here, so let me introduce another board member from Wales, from his organisation Trac Cymru, the Welsh organisation, and one of the founder members of the European Folk Network. Let me introduce to you Danny Kilbride.
Boneddigesau, boneddigion, cyfeillion hen a newydd. Mae fi yw Danny Kilbride, cyfarwydd ar Trac Cymru, mudiad genedlaethol I edrych ar ôl ein traddodiadau cerddorol, brodorol. My name is Danny Kilbride, and I would like to welcome you all, friends old and new, to this second face-to-face meeting of the European Folk Network. We started this network because we wanted something that didn't exist. We wanted a voice for the folk arts of all the communities and all the traditions of Europe, but we didn't want a voice that preached or led or spoke from the top. We wanted a voice that reflected a dialogue from the interests of everybody who is passionate about or takes part in or promotes or supports or is a performer or a professional in the indigenous folk arts of Europe and the folk arts that have come to Europe from many places across the world and are now resident in our cities, and very welcome they are too. I'd like to introduce the other members of the board. If you could all just stand up a second, I can point them out. These guys are all responsible for everything, so if it goes wrong, blame them. So we have Dinah, Eric, Araceli, and Angela, for whom we have to thank for the marvellous organisation for helping this go on. What would I like to say? We have a programme of ideas that was born out of 5 or 6 years of conversations at Womex and at Showcase Scotland and at the English Folk Expo. And we met in 2019 in Scotland House in Brussels, and we worked out a programme which we were very excited by. We had a number of online meetings. Spring Forward was one of them, and 2 others, where we again readdressed that programme. And we very confidently and very, I would say, with retrospect, overconfidently, put together an application for support, which we found out last week that that particular application wasn't successful. So we have a program of ideas and conversations that have come from feedback from that report and from your contributions over the past 2 years to discuss the things that we feel, or rather that we have been told that you guys want to discuss. So I'm not going to talk for much longer, even though we have a long, long gap to go, because you're going to hear so many voices talking about their own professional expertise, talking about how their projects work or how their projects don't work, and then draw up a plan of action about how we, as a network, can support you in your activities. So, there is no much. We have slightly longer than we planned for, and I was going to finish with a very, very flash set of inspiring speeches, but I think that the time for speeches is over. I think we've now got to talk with each other. So, croeso i'r cynhadledd, welcome to the conference, Udfyslomi Conferencia. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Danny. And I told you that David Francis, our chairman, is stuck and not able to get here until this evening. He'll be here all day tomorrow and can welcome you. So we had a little time where he was going to give a longer speech, but I'm sure he can fit that in tomorrow in the first session. There's a couple of things that I'd like to also, a couple of other people that I'd like to mention who are not here today and send their apologies. The other two members of the board, apart from Danny, Dana, Araceli, Eric and Angela, are Katie Spicer from the English Folk Dance and Song Society. She sends her apologies. She has, I believe, a family issue. She's looking after her mother, and of course that's the most important thing for her right now. So she was very disappointed not to come. She'd booked the tickets to come, but she has to stay back in London. And the other person is from our address, our official office address in Brussels. That's Lisa Colson, and she was not able to come either this weekend. Now, I know the reality is that if we did not have the horrible COVID and the virus and all of the regulations, we would have had a greater turnout to this conference, and there are lots of people still to come from our attendance list who are coming in the course of the afternoon and tomorrow. But, of course, as I said at the beginning, we are live streaming this, and we will be able to record that live stream for the future. And apart from organisational speeches like mine, we'll be able to record all of and live stream and then record all of the speeches by our wonderful list of speakers. I should say to the people on the live stream, people out there who are watching, and we know there are a lot because they've been messaging us, we'd love you to be here in person, in reality, in this beautiful heritage house, and meeting and having coffee and glasses of wine with all of our colleagues here. And next year, when we have our conference, I'm sure that will be possible. We will move on by then. But right now, thank you for coming on our live stream. Thank you for attending online. And also, I should also say that attending online, because we don't have complete interaction, you can't ask questions directly because we don't have that facility. But you can ask questions or give comments on the chat, on the comments live stream. If you're doing that, we do have a colleague here all the way through the conference who will be taking down the comments and the live commentary or questions from the live stream and then relaying them to us and asking our speakers or whoever is talking those questions or offering those comments. So please do feel free on live stream to give us as much information or as much ideas and commentary and questions as you wish. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Now, this, just for the people in the hall, rather than the live streamers, the one benefit for the live streamers is that you don't have to wear one of these things. You can sit in your own office, in your own home, quietly without a mask. But for those in the hall, I think just to say the protocol with the mask is, if you are, of course, if you're drinking or eating, you have to take the mask off. If, however, you're just moving around the house, moving around the venue, then please wear a mask out of respect for colleagues and for other people in the house. I think sitting down, it's your choice whether you have the mask on or not. That's entirely your choice. But if you're moving around and not eating or drinking coffee, then please wear a mask as you regularly walk around the house. I don't believe there are any regulations in Hungary about the mask, if I'm quite right. Thank you, Angela. So the regulations are you must wear a mask in the transport. And later, again, sorry live stream people, but we're going to go on a tram ride to the Phono Music House later on. So when you're on that ride or in your taxi or wherever on a bus, please wear a mask on that. That's the kind of detail that we rely upon our colleagues here in Hungary to send us. I should say, again, for the people in the hall, that Angela here Angela Hont, who has been fantastic at helping us organise this. Angela, if you have any questions about what to do, yes, please give her a round of applause. If you have any questions about what to do or any technical questions or whatever, please ask Angela or her colleagues. Well, I can't see you. Yes, stand up. Please ask them, and they'll be very happy to help you. And you've seen some people down on the reception desk earlier on. I'd also like to thank all these technicians. Again, even the people in the hall can't see them because they're behind you. But we have 3 cameras. I feel like a film star here. 3 cameras taking the live stream, which is fantastic. And thank you, technicians, for all of that. And, of course, the sound technician on the sound desk as well. And they've helped to set up the room. So we like to thank them. Usually you thank everybody who goes to gigs, you thank the sound engineer after the gig. Well, let's thank the sound engineer and the technicians before the gig and thank them for giving us the opportunity. I don't think there's any more technical questions. I think that's more or less it. We've got a few minutes. We're trying to run this to time because those people on the live stream must know when sessions are starting and ending. So we've got a couple of minutes before we go to the next session. I would draw your attention to and again, people on the live stream, we will put this all on the website in more detail. At the moment on the website, you have the running order, the details of each session for today and tomorrow. But for those in the hall, and we'll put this on the website later so you can read in detail, for those not here, we have a beautiful programme produced by our colleagues at the Heritage House, which gives you not only details of the running order of the programme, but it also gives you some background to all of our speakers and the subjects that they're going to speak on. I think that's probably it. Yes, later this afternoon and then tomorrow we have discussion groups in the programme you'll see. There are going to be 3 discussion groups in each session, apart from the session on Thursday at 11:30 when there's a 4th, not really a discussion group, but a 4th session. But today there will be 3 discussion groups at 4:15 in the afternoon. This is Central European time, by the way, for all of the people on the live stream. So do check your timings if you're in another time zone. The 3 discussion groups at 4:15. One is on education. That will happen here, and we will hear about education from Miklos both earlier this afternoon. The education working group will be here. The discussion group on green touring, and we'll hear about that in a minute, will be in one adjacent room, and Angela and her colleagues will show you where that room is later. And then there's a 3rd group on dance development. So we're not really allocating anybody to specific rooms. Please think about which of those groups you'd like to be in, and let's hope that there's a kind of a balance of numbers between each group. And we'll show you where they are later on. The idea of the discussion groups is that we take maybe 1 or 2 important questions that relate to the whole network. Questions such as, what experience can you bring? Can you tell us about, let's say, education? Let's say it's the education group. Can you tell us about your experience of education, maybe projects that you have or ideas that you have? And the second question, and we'll be asking this asking this all the way through the conference is, how can a network like ours engage with these subjects? We're not going to be running education projects ourselves, but how can the European Folk Network make education an important priority, if that's what we prioritise? What kind of actions can a network take that individual organisations can't take? So those are the kind of questions in the discussion group. And we have members of the board will chair the discussion groups, and then we won't have a feedback straight away, but they will make notes of the most important things that are being discussed in the discussion groups, the most important ideas or questions, and they will come forward and we'll make a report at the end. And we'll certainly, at the end of tomorrow, we'll tell you some of those ideas that have come forward from all the groups. As I say, discussion groups tomorrow as well. We'll talk about that when we open up tomorrow. And the fourth group at 11:30 tomorrow morning, and again, if we have live stream people who want to know more about EFN, that fourth group is not a discussion, but I will do a presentation on that fourth group to those people who are not members of European Folk Network right now, but maybe are interested or would like to be members or want to know more, and I'll do a presentation in that fourth group tomorrow morning. So, we're very, very privileged to have a lot of really good speakers in this conference this year. I have to say, because of COVID, because of all the restrictions, this has been planned incredibly quickly. We only decided as a board in September that it was possible to have this conference, and in that short space of time, our colleagues from the Heritage House have made everything work, as you've all seen today, including the incredible technical support. And also, we've very luckily been able to attract a number of really interesting speakers on subjects that are absolutely critical to everything that we're doing within the network. It's a folk network, but so many of the issues that we have are shared with everybody else in the performing arts. And we have a particular affinity, I think, in folk music and traditional arts with the jazz world. The jazz world has their own European network, as you probably know. At our conference in Brussels in 2019, we heard from the then president of that network, Ros Rigby, who I hope is watching online today, who talked about the way in which that network works. And we do have a number of issues in common with all other art forms. So, instead of just telling you about folk music, we'd like to introduce now from the Finnish jazz organisation, it's called Jazz Finland, two speakers who are actually already running a green touring programme. And they're going to tell you how that works, and, as I say, the word jazz or the word folk, it doesn't matter. The green touring, which is such an important part of what we're all trying to do now, to be green, to be environmental, to try and help with climate change. They're going to tell you how their green touring project works, and after that, maybe some discussion and questions from you. So please welcome, if you'd like to come up to the stage, Raisa Sivola, who's the producer, and Maria Silvanonen, who's the executive manager of Jazz Finland, talking about the Nordic Green Touring Project.
Good afternoon to everybody. Joona Potkivanok to everyone. First of all, thank you for the invitation to come to speak to this conference today. Me and my colleague, we are really happy to be here in Hungary today at this conference. My name is Maria Silvennoinen. I'm the Executive Director of Jazz Finland, the Finnish Jazz Federation. Here is my colleague Raisa Siivola, as you mentioned, our publicist and producer, but also our project director of the Green Touring project called In the Key of Green. Before Raisa will give the actual presentation about our Green Touring project, I thought I'd say just a couple of words about Jazz Finland to give you a little bit of a background information, who we are, what we do, and why we are here today. Jazz Finland is an advocacy organization for jazz music and culture, striving to advance and develop the industry's operational prerequisites, status, and appreciation. We fulfill our mission through increasing the visibility of jazz music in our society, acting as an expert organization at various cultural sectors, producing information about the Finnish jazz industry, and operating as an active production unit nationally and internationally. Our activities are founded on a representational model which brings together Finnish jazz professionals and organizations. At the moment we have 49 members, mostly Finnish jazz festivals and Finnish jazz clubs. For instance, many of you might know Pori Jazz Festival or Tampere Jazz Happening. Our tour productions represent our most visible form of activity in Finland. Annually, each year, we produce 10 nationwide jazz tours ourselves, resulting in around 100 separate concerts. So even though we are here today to speak about Nordic touring, we are an active tour producer in Finland as well. Our values. Why am I here speaking about our organization's values? Again, even though we are here to speak about our one project, Green Touring project, it doesn't mean that we only wanted to think about responsibility and sustainability issues in this one particular project, not at all. 1 year ago, we renewed our strategy, and during the process, we added a new value to ourselves, responsibility. We promise to operate in a social, ecological, and financially responsible manner. This means that we have set new sustainability objectives to our organization as well. We want to be climate neutral organization, the latest by the end of 2013. We want that all our tours will be zero carbon tours, and all our events, our festivals, should be zero carbon festivals and events by the end of 2030 as well. The Finnish government's policy is that Finland wants to become climate neutral by 2035. Helsinki City states that Helsinki wants to become climate neutral by 2030. Our office is located in Helsinki. Well, however, we are today here not to speak about how we have done everything already fantastically, how we have implemented our environmental and corporate social programs in a perfect way, not at all. We are here to share experience and some learnings that we have found and gathered during this Green Touring process and project. We have also gathered you some examples and cases of Finnish folk and jazz musicians, as well as Finnish folk and jazz festivals that really take sustainability matters into account in all their actions and operations. I'm not going to go through the full list today here, we don't have time for that, but you will get the slides afterwards. So if you see something interesting here, you have the possibility to take a closer look at these examples afterwards. But I could mention just a few examples. Here on the picture where you can see two women, it is a Finnish folk duo. Some of you might know them, Emilia Lajunen and Suvi Oskala. Any of you who were at Vomax 2019 in Tampere, you might have seen the duo performing there. This duo organizes climate-neutral bike tours in Finland. This picture with a boat is taken from an Åland Sea Jazz Festival. It is a festival which is part of an archipelago sea jazz festival concept. This archipelago sea jazz concept consists of 4 different festivals. They are all located in the archipelago region, and it is in their very core values in all those festivals to protect the Baltic Sea. I could maybe still mention pianist, Finnish jazz pianist Kari Ikonen, who also does bike tours in Finland. He also does train tours in Europe. So for instance, next spring, he's going to tour in Europe by using only trains, no flights. He's going to travel from Helsinki first to St. Petersburg, from there to Baltic States, Poland, Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, and so forth. And then, before giving the stage to Raisa, just a couple of words about Nordic collaboration. As you of course all know, Nordic countries have a strong tradition of cooperation based on historic, cultural and societal similarities. We also, as a national organization or umbrella organization, have a long history of collaborating with our colleague national organizations in each Nordic countries. In Sweden, we collaborate with Svensk Jazz, in Denmark with Jazz Denmark, in Norway with Norsk Jazz Forum, and in Iceland with Fi Iceland Music School. Probably I didn't manage to pronounce that correctly. So when we started to think how to activate Nordic jazz musicians touring in the Nordic countries, it was really logical for us to work again with partners that we have already long tradition working with. As one of the starting points, when we started thinking about how to create new ways, new models of touring in the Nordic countries, we wanted to use the Nordic Council of Ministers. I have the right slide there. Sustainable Development Action, the Nordic Way, published in 2017. In that publication, the Council states that to be successful, the Nordic SDG program, SDG Sustainable Development Goals of the Agenda 2030, the program must involve representatives from a broad set of stakeholders. And as stakeholders, the report mentions also culture. And here I quote the report itself. Culture, both the production and the consumption of culture and creative industries, is strong in the Nordic countries and has the potential to support sustainable development, awareness raising and education. Culture and art have always had the power to move masses. So this was one of the starting points, kind of the basis on which we wanted to build this new collaboration, the new models, how we could develop Nordic touring but in a more sustainable way. So, köszönöm szépen. Now I'll welcome to the stage my dear colleague Raisa Siivola, who is going to speak more about the Green Touring project itself. And by the way, we have time in the end of this presentation for questions and answers. So if you have any questions, for instance, concerning Jazz Finland, we are here trying to provide you answers to any of your questions.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you once again for having us here. So, as said, I'm Raisa, and I will tell you a little bit of what we try to do about greener touring with our Nordic sister organizations. Yes. So, for over 20 years, we've had a collaboration concept called the Nordic Jazz Comets, where Jazz Finland and our colleagues in Sweden, Norway, Denmark and Iceland put our smart heads together and brainstorm what is needed at the moment in terms of supporting the career paths of the aspiring jazz artists in our countries. A decade ago, it was a band competition with prizes and all. And after that, it was a showcase at a conference like this. And later on, we presented Nordic bands in Berlin, London, and Paris, and worked with the local professional networks there. So this project has always reflected its time, and today we know that the most valuable skills and assets in the future's work environment on any sector are competence in sustainability and communication. So here we are with a project called In the Key of Green. In 2020, we called for jazz festivals, clubs, and venues around the Nordic states to join a network to exchange information, build touring routes for bands, and to create a more sustainable live jazz scene that works in the Nordic region and benefits all parties: the musicians, the concert organizers, the audiences, and the communities. We also called for Nordic jazz bands to participate in the project, and the promoter network selected 5 bands out of the 80 bands that applied. So it was 1 band out of each country. The musicians and the promoters and us organizations, we met at workshops where we learned about the environmental effects of live events and touring. And we worked on finding solutions to make the climate footprint smaller, and the handprint, of course, bigger. So we didn't just exercise in theory, but instead we planned together 5 tours that we carried out last September. So this project was aimed to tackle the first challenge that we humans have when it comes to changing our habits: the knowing-doing gap. So, we all know that, for example, smoking or meat eating or car driving is bad, not just for us, but also for the environment. And also we know that changing our systems and habits would save us also money in the long run. So why don't we just do it? You know, change is hard, especially when you're not motivated. And especially, it's hard when someone else tells us to do something. We tend to have all of these negative feelings in store for the occasion that we come across a piece of information that tells us that we might actually have to get up and do something. It is the same with changing a work culture, because the culture is made by, you know, us people. So in our project, we tried to find motivating factors for 2 things: reasons for the people to invest their time and money in the project, and reasons why the people would start changing their professional culture and conditions into more environmentally sustainable ones. Usually, the permanent change comes from a combination of 3 things. Firstly, forcing, then nudging, and incentives. Forcing, in our case, means that the art industry can't escape the global need to more sustainable practices and lifestyles. And if you want to make your living out of performing or producing music events, you'll have to adapt. Nudging, it generally means that you gently push or manipulate people to make better choices in their everyday lives, and hope that the good behavior becomes then a norm. It might be as obvious as placing a bio-waste container near a food truck, or more subtle, like we did, that we had, for example, themes for each band's tour that they would have to observe on the road. For example, the Finnish band Kadivia Key Project had a theme of Know What You Eat, and they would require plant-based, locally produced meals at the concert venues, but it also transferred to other meals and snacks as well that they had during their tour. And then there's the carrot, the incentives, the reward. We asked at the first workshop that what motivated the festivals, clubs, and venues to participate in this project. And among other things, they said community, curiosity, gaining knowledge, tools for the future, and getting more income and audience. All of these found out to be good motivators for the sustainable development itself. Can you guess what motivated the bands to apply? Well, you probably guessed right. The chance to go on tour and present their art to more people and get paid for their work. And these are also some of the right motivators for the change too. This is actually the Swedish band called Post Sun Vision, and they are performing there in Trondheim. And they actually had, when we calculated the carbon footprints of traveling, they had the lowest, so they are happy for a reason in that picture. So, we based our project and workshops on 3 things. Firstly, we used the latest research and sustainability specialists. And secondly, we made sure that our project's goals and activities are lawful and also in line with both the UN's Sustainable Development Goals and also the Europe Jazz Network's Green Manifesto. And thirdly, we wanted that all parties would be included in the open dialogue and they would be interacting with each other, and that we'd learn by doing and sharing our success stories, but also our mistakes. So, in September, we had 5 bands touring around the Nordics, leaving a small climate footprint as possible. We had over 20 concerts in venues and at festivals who now pay attention to their carbon footprint. In February, we'll release a greener touring guide and a casebook of our project. So, what's next? Next thing is to start filling in the compliance competence gap. We are professionals and our business is making art and displaying it. And this market is very competitive. It's essential that we work together in these kinds of development projects like ours. But what happens after the project is over is more important. We hope that our participants continue to work together in the future, but also develop their own individual competence. In order to make our business truly sustainable is to make it also profitable. If we only comply with the environmental and social sustainability requirements, we are missing out on a possibility to increase our audience and income. Gaining competitive advantage from sustainability can be done in many ways, but the most successful ventures combine 2 elements: a good communication strategy and a product that includes a solution to an existing problem. In our project, we came across a few challenges or issues in greener touring in the Nordic region that we will try to address in our upcoming Nordic Jazz Comets project next year. So, first of all, what was discovered is that most of the carbon footprint of touring comes from transportation. Obviously, maybe, but still. And also, regarding the venues, it is mostly the heating and electricity. But we wanted to focus on the transportation because that is kind of the obvious thing in touring that produces emission. And regarding transportation, the biggest, of course, as we all know, the biggest monsters are flying, and also in the Nordic region we use a lot of ferries, boats. And we wanted to avoid those, but of course, because some of our states are islands, like Iceland, and also we are surrounded by water, we had to either fly or take the ferry to try to be more efficient in that. But also what came from flying or trying to make those few touring days as tight as possible, it also created stress in the artists because the flights are becoming more and more unsecure way of getting from one place to another in time. So they were even in the risk of losing concerts or missing out on their own concerts because they were relying on the flight companies or the flights being in time. And that problem will increase in the future as well. So, and the venues had this one question that I know that it's a question also no matter which genre of music, but how to gain more audiences to unknown bands. And also how to gain new audiences and increase their income in order to, for example, spread the sustainability matters as well. And the musicians, they had the common problem or challenge of how to get more concerts abroad, because they had been touring their own home countries to the end, so now they wanted to have more concerts abroad. And on the other hand, it was proven that the traditional model of touring abroad, where you have like these in-and-out concerts, where you have a concert on Thursday in Stockholm, and then you have a concert on Friday in Oslo, and if you have a concert on Saturday in Reykjavik or something, that needs to change because the travel is so unreliable, and also it causes stress. And also that traditional model does not include or engage the local audiences or build a fan base, for example, for the venues to get more audience and more ticket income, and also for the artists to get booked more to places. So how to avoid the hurry and the stress on tour to make it like a more quality product of that concert? How to also think of ways of sustainable event production and also the transportation, both the audiences and artists. So I would like to finish off by giving you a little product development project here. And I'd love to hear your ideas and experiences during these couple of days that we get to spend here together. So, as mentioned, alternatives for traditional in-and-out touring are needed. So, your project, your task is how to build a fan base locally and give back to the community, how to avoid unnecessary flying and uncertain traveling, how to build a sustainable income stream from touring or concerts. So, do we need to reform or remodel our touring product? That meaning reinvent touring in general. So, thank you for this, and now I think we have a few minutes that if you have any questions about the touring project or anything related to that, or related to jazz, or related to Finland, or related to Jazz Finland. So please, we'll try our best to answer them. Thank you.
And maybe I could add to that Raisa mentioned that we are going to publish the handbook of sustainable Nordic touring next spring. When this publication is ready, we would be more than happy to share it, of course, with all of you. So we will still need a couple of more months, but there you can also read more about this project. This was quite short presentation about everything we have done, but that publication gives you more information about this 2 years that we have worked with this project. But if you have any questions, we are here to give you answers, and of course we will be here also this evening and tomorrow if you want to ask us something later. Please sing. Sing? Yes. Or dance? We'll save that for the evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for that. Can I
ask how you think, how much change do you think you've made already, and how difficult do you think making that, embedding that change with more than just one project for it to become just the way that we do it in the future is coming? What's your feeling, your experience so far?
Can I start and you can continue? I wanted to say that I know that we have changed the minds of the people who participated to the project. When for 2 years the musicians need to think the way they tour, the way they organize their own work and so forth, it has caused change in the way they think. I think the same goes for venues, the same goes for us, the national organizations. It has been also a learning experience for us. I think what my colleague Raisa said is communication is an important part of the process. How you communicate what you are doing to the wider audience. I think that also for us is and was a challenge. So we have not changed the world. We have not changed the Nordic venues. We have not even changed the way Finnish bands tour. But I think we managed to start. We managed to gather 19 great Nordic, very well-known venues together to think what can we do together. We also involved, I think, more than 20 Nordic high-class jazz musicians to think together with us what can we do, little by little, step by step, to change the way we think, the way we see how concerts are being organized. So I think we did manage to change something, but I would say this is the first step. We are really, really in a process of saving the world.
Thank you.
But in the very beginning of that process.
What she said.
Morning.
And it's this is one of the reasons why I'm so happy that we are here today. I mean, I suppose many of us are now doing sustainability projects for the first time. So I think knowledge sharing is really important part of how we accelerate, how we make the change faster. So whenever we have a chance, we go and speak what we have done so far, also to learn from others.
Morning. Thanks for that. It sparked an idea, and I'd like to just sort of see if I could just explain whether you've had some success. Now, we all know, as particularly if we're musicians or organising music, the difficulties of particularly air transport with instruments and so on and so forth. But with the focus on the green agenda now pretty much in the face of everyone, and the airlines, particularly air companies, desperately trying to prove that they are doing better, it just strikes me that there's a chance for the music, us in the music industry, as it were, collectively, to start having discussions with transport companies, airlines, ferries, and say, look, if you add up all the number of musicians and venues and gigs and et cetera, we represent a fair bit of money for you guys. So here are some of the things that we need, and we would like to encourage you to do, and then perhaps get some dialogue out of that. And bearing in mind, of course, that some of the artists involved are high profile and have social media followings and so on and so forth. So I'm just thinking whether you've, in the course of your developing that for Finland, and we can start thinking broader across Europe, whether we've got a basis for actually we're changing some minds. I'd hate to think of trying to have a conversation with Michael O'Leary of Ryanair about it, but nonetheless, we could try and think about, see if we could put some pressure on him and his like to say, better deal for musicians, please, and this will actually help your green profile. What do you think? And have you had any luck so far?
Brave thoughts, and I would sign on those thoughts. What comes to flying in general, I think now the kind of an overall goal is to try and minimize it, like in general, of course, but also flying is, okay, try not to murder me for saying this, but flying is probably not the worst thing when it comes to like bigger artists or bigger shows or like huge stars that have a whole touring crew, and usually that goes on land or by boat. You know, these 20 trucks that they have or something. So exactly, private jets or something. So it's not maybe the actual like route, like regular airlines that are to blame for the most of the emissions. But also when it comes to bigger artists in bigger genres, it's usually what causes most of the emissions are the travels of the audience to places. For example, in the UK, if you want to see an act that is a superstar who's British or comes from the States or something to perform in England, you have to basically fly there if you want to see the show. So, I don't know, you are in the root of the problem and the solution, but also like there are so many factors to consider. So that's a start, at least.
Hi, sorry, we have another question. I'm here. Sorry, I just, the online, so the live stream. We have Rose Rigby, and her question is, were there any surprises from this first green touring project?
Rosa, you can start.
Surprises, it was every day was a surprise because our project took place this September, like the actual touring or the tours, and it was the fun COVID time, so it was every day was a surprise, mostly for the travels, but also for the concert organization itself. But regarding like the actual like project work, I think it was surprising, like the level of like basic knowledge, like or the variety of the amount of knowledge that people had about sustainability or the environment or their own actions or emissions or effect on the environment. So I think we had specialists who walked us through the whole issues and the whole like the information side of it. But it's a variety, great variety among the concert organizers and also the musicians.
Yeah, and I could say what surprised us, I think all the Nordic national organizations, were the amount of applications from the jazz musicians who wanted to take part in this project. I think we received almost 100 applications, and then we needed to choose only 5 bands. So there is a growing interest also from the musicians' side to take actions and to learn more. And I think providing them different kind of opportunities is also very important.
It's very interesting to know how did you make this difficult choice of these artists, of these bands?
We had a great solution because we made the network members, the promoter network members, select them. So we kind of made sure that the bands were actually the ones that the promoters wanted in concert. So that it's not like we are forcing or throwing money away because they had to also pay for the concerts. We only supported the travels and the accommodation from our project funding.
Yes, and then on the application criteria, we also asked for the band's motivation for developing new ways of touring in the Nordic countries. So it was a combination of artistic quality and the motivation. And as Raisa mentioned, we had the venue promoters, and then there was a selection process, and in the end we chose 5 that we found were the most suitable for this project. Are we running out of time?
Well, we do just have a couple of minutes left in your session. So to finish off, just to give us, and we are going to talk in a discussion group later about this, and we hope you'll join that and perhaps give more detail. But to finish off this session, could you give us just a flavour of some of the ideas that the musicians and the promoters or the concert organisers had to begin to address this problem? You've talked about flying or going by train. What other kinds of ideas came up? You also talked about, sustainable food, so knowing where your food is from. Give us a flavour at the end of your speech of the other kinds of ideas, maybe the more surprising ones that came out of those workshops and those proposals.
Well, we are actually going to test one of the ideas in our next project with the same network but with different bands. Next year was that in addition to their concert, the bands would have like a, we call it a dagsverke, which it means like unpaid work, like a charity work, locally in an NGO or a project that is either for social justice or environmental work or something. And in that way, they will get to know more local people and actually participate, give something back to the community, but also build up their own fan base in that region or that area, because then they will actually meet people and work with them and do something else and learn from them from a completely different area of expertise. And then these people who are stakeholders in that particular project or something, or charity, they get to come and listen to the band as well. So it's like finding new audiences, staying in one place for a bit more longer time, and also engaging. That was one of the ideas that came through. But of course, maybe the more traditional ones were like maybe make these kind of versions of tours where you have a residency in one place, and then you would just make like little regional quick stops and concerts. Also, we have some of the examples from the festivals, for example, where they, for example, there's a Natjas festival in Bergen in Norway. And for example, they don't cover any domestic flights for the artists that they are hosting. They only cover if they come by train, domestic wise. Or then we have like some, if I remember correctly, it was also in Norway that they, the train company would give like discount tickets if you bought a festival ticket and the train ticket to get there. What else? Do you remember something?
Maybe, Raisa, if we have time, you can give examples. You mentioned the Finnish band's theme on their tour, but what were the other themes? They were rather traditional, but still, I mean, those were the themes were the ones from which maybe the bands gained the most experience, because they really needed to learn by doing, finding out information themselves.
Yeah, the bands discussed with their concert organizers in each place about their certain theme that they had. As I mentioned, the Finnish band had, for example, food. And then we had the Norwegian band, Kjetil Mølle Trio. They had reduce, reuse, recycle. So they were talking about recycling and reusing, repairing equipment and such at the venues. What else they had? The Swedish band had a training makes perfect because they wanted to go by train. They wanted to train everywhere. And such.
Waste management, so the ones that many of us know already. So I think we didn't invent anything that nobody would have ever invented before. I think it was more awareness raising, topics that we all know that exist, but maybe we still don't use in our everyday life. Let's say, let's have in our technical writer also write about only vegetarian food, or having accommodation in a place that uses, let's say, eco-electricity or so forth and so forth. So, yeah, I think this is pretty much it. Now when we don't have so much time.
Yes, and as a conclusion, if you think about the amount of compensation that we made out of the transportations of the 5 tours, the whole amount was like, I remember correctly, it was over 13,000 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalents, which is more like a Finnish average citizen annually causes. The amount of emission is approximately 10,000 kilos. So basically, in a year, annually, one person. And here we had tours that were more than that, just by transportation. So it's a big, it makes a difference.
So, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Raisa. I think that's started some real ideas flowing, certainly for me, and I'm sure for everyone else. And in the discussion group later, those of you who want to discuss green touring and green sustainability in your work, I'm sure that's prompted some ideas for you of the kind of things that you can develop. It would be great to see the report that comes out, which will give much more detail, and when you publish that report, we'll certainly circulate it to all of the members of the European Folk Network. So thanks, it's really started us thinking. We've all come here by some form of transport to Budapest. We have to think about how to do that better as well, to come to conferences. So thanks, and well, the subject we're coming to in a short while is education, and Miklos is going to give us some ideas about educating future generations. Right now, people on the live stream, make a cup of coffee for yourselves, and for the people in the hall, there's coffee break until 3:30, when exactly back in here we'll begin the next session with Miklos. live stream colleagues, we have to keep to time. And so thank you for getting your coffee very quickly, everybody. At the end of this session, we will have 5 minutes to organize the discussion group. So think about which discussion group you'd like to be in a few minutes, in a short while. That's the education group, which will stay in here, the green touring group, and the dance development group. Just think about which ones you want to go in. Meanwhile, talking about education, we're very, very lucky to have not only the next director of the Hungarian Heritage House, but very happily, his whole project until now has all been about future education in folk and traditional arts for young people. So please welcome, for his presentation, Miklos Both.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming to Budapest. I can imagine it was not really easy for you. We just discussed with Tom that a few weeks ago we were in Manchester and it was just incredible, complicated to travel there. So we are very happy to be here, that you are to be here. So I wanted to show you now 2 projects. So sorry, I don't have presentation because I will show you 2 different websites. So that is the reason why I will be much more a VJ and a DJ altogether here. And I just please ask that start the screen sharing, if it's possible. I don't know the technicians. We'll soon. So this 2 project is actually a different project, but for a while later we just linked together, and it has some very lot of common background. Firstly, we will see soon, yes, we will see that actually both of the projects actually based in a very complex database structure, website and browser-based database structure, which was, I think, one of the most important innovation in this project. So I will show you a lot of folk music, of course, and I will show you this educational program, but altogether just all the time remember that everything which I will show you, it's a URL-based system. So if you have the URL, you just click there and there is everything. And this is especially important, I think, in Hungary, because many of the institutes, the schools and so on, they don't have much technical supports. And I think this is the reason why is it very important. So the first is not the folk music, it's not about the folk music education, it was started much more about a folk music collection, which we created in 2015. And we started to record in Ukraine different type of folk music, and this is the website, what you can see. So the general idea was that we traveled a lot of different villages. You can see soon, you can see how many actually. I will show you the map. So we traveled a lot of different villages. It's now with the number 150, around 150. And this is where we recorded with the structure, with cameras and together with researcher and so on. It was general the idea that the Hungary supported the software, the whole idea, the whole method, how we record, the whole system, and we cooperate, of course, with Ukrainian researcher. So altogether in this project were together around 30, 40 different people. It was generally Ukrainian researchers. So I will show you now the website, how does it look like, the website called Polyphony Project. And this is what I'm saying, that this is a very simple looking website. In the left part, you can just search for the first line. You can search for location, I don't know, with different oblast, and then if you click, just immediately just filter up the system. And you know, the whole informatical background is a NoSQL system. I don't know that you are familiar with this type of terms, but it means that it is very quick searching engine in the background. For example, if you are going to the Amazon and you write there, I don't know, red shoe, then immediately comes up the red shoe, although it's in the background millions of items, and just like this, it take it out. So I think this is the whole system in the background, the engine is very strong and very quick. So you can search location, you can check the genres. We have quite a complex genre system. For example, calendar and ritual songs, spring songs, carols, inside in the carols, I don't know, this type of different type of genres you can search. And this is actually how it is, you can search in a different way. Then we have a context of performing as well. And also we have the ethnographical regions where you can search for the things. And of course you can also find the different collectors and researchers who was working in the project. This we have also something which is the people really liked. It's just a little bit complex. In the research part it was a lot of debate about this filter section. But the thing is that you can also search love songs. And you can also search, I don't know, family relations, about death, about courtships, whatever. The people really like this, especially the young generations. So this is the general idea how you can filter and you can find the new type of songs, what you want. Okay, let's choose one of the songs. Let's go inside. Oh yes, this is what I also wanted to say, that as you see that we have this type of filter structure, you can also filtering in the map. So if you are interested for ballads, for example, then immediately they just filtered up all of the things and you can just click here and then go to this one records if you wanted to. Okay, let's check one song. How does it look like? Before I will do this, I will show you some of the pictures. How does it look like the whole recorded idea? This is without sound, but I wanted just to show you how the picture looks like. And, you know, I understand that this is not a scientific question, of course, but we put it here some art in that way that the cameraman and the whole directors who just, they really wanted to find something unique in the place, because the whole thing was like that we travel to the villages. You know, it would also possible that we invite these ladies to I don't know, some centers or some towns or some cities, and we record there. But the general idea was that we traveling with the equipments and everything, and we find some place which is a place where this lady is singing all the time. For example, clubs or somebody's house or something, and we record it in that type of circumstances. And just please take a look how this quality looking and so on. The cameras is absolutely this type of Netflix standards, and also the sound quality is, it was also created with very good microphones, with sound cards and everything. And yeah, this gives us some sort of interesting connection that high quality sounds in this type of poor environment with these people. And this I think it's altogether very interesting to pair with. Okay, so I will not show you all of the picture. There is a lot, of course, because I told you there is 150 cities what we recorded. I really like them to watch, but I will not do. And the second approach, which is very unique, I think, in this project, that the sound recording was or doing in that way. That as you see, here we have every singer has the different microphone, and this is how we record it with the special microphoning techniques. Yeah, fantastic singers, yeah? Incredible. A lot of such a singers is incredible, really. So, and here you can see that and you can hear that, especially in such a music, the musical texture you just cannot understand. And I cannot understand it's simple, because you just listen and they sing unbelievable, but in that way that you have this type of different microphone, and everybody know that the folk music, this is the thing in the folk music, this type of little ornamentic, this type of little dynamics and everything. So you can really understand the texture of the music with such a recordings. Okay, and how is it related with the website? Here comes the things. You can also now watch one of the, I don't know, other singer. I choose for you one song. Beautiful background. It's some kind of party in the club. So, and the structure, if you choose in the website one song, you can see this movie. There is only one camera total, and you can all the time see everyone who is creating the music. It's very important not to recording, I don't know, the birds, and you know, we have such a things many times. So here is the transliteration, because of course this is in Cyrillic, in Cyril. Of course, you can change the language. We have Hungarian, English, and Ukrainian. In that case, English and Hungarian translated we didn't do because it was not really necessary. So we create only transliteration. And here comes the things. Every song has the multiplayer. So if you just started. And this is a way, actually, where we started the next project, the folk music education. I will link together. I will link to the next project soon. But this is what we also publish in the website. That you are available to listen all of the different tracks, and you have to understand that we are talking about 4,000 songs. So all of the songs has this type of information, this type of recordings. Now it's published, I think it's around 1,600, and now in the next 1 month we will open some new villages and new recordings, around 500 new one. Okay, so this is what we have, a multiplayer, and after that you can also link to the different people and the different informator. Sorry, I wanted to check something. Sorry, this is not my laptop because it was technically not possible, and it's not. I don't really see everything what I want to see. Okay, hold on everyone, please. For example, this doesn't enter. And yes, if you go down, there is also different possibilities about variations and, wait a minute. I remember even the ID number of these songs, yes. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to show. So after the multiplayer, we have also some kind of different geolocation and coordinates. First, you can just check where is it placed, this village. So it's very simple. This village is actually in Cherkasy Oblast. Tekucha is the called. And the second is very interesting for us because as you see here, there is a variation of these songs all over in Ukraine. So if you wanted to compare these songs, because you know, folk music, there is a lot of different variation, improvisation, different character. This is the most important and the most interesting part. So how the singer, how the villager just sing this type of songs and how the different variation sounds like. So let's check these songs in some other village. Oh, yeah, this is, we are in the shop now. In this recording, I remember many people came in and wanted to buy a beer behind us. We recorded it, of course. So just check it, the same song. Because you have to understand that in such a villages, it's very complicated to find a place where so many people can sit in and you can have cameras and lights. So we generally working in clubs, so cultural houses, shops, as you see, and sometimes schools and sometimes outside, but it's so much complicated, so we try all the time keep everything somewhere inside. Okay, so this is the song, and of course, here you can also go down and you can check the lyrics. Of course, it is a lyrics variation because they didn't sing in the same way. As you see here, we have the multi-track player, so every singer you can check, and here we have the variation. We have such information as well that birthplace of performance you can also check. It gives a lot of interesting information that people live to burn in the same village or different village and so on. So this is the polyphony project, and in that moment we started to think that yes, it was very popular in Ukraine, so many educational schools and clubs started to use this website. Because I don't want to talk much about Ukraine, but you know the Ukrainian music system, they have folk music departments in different conservatory, but this folk music is not folk music, it's much more this kind of empire music, in the Soviet empire music. And now there is this type of revival things as well in Ukraine. It was started as well in the 70s and the 80s, like everywhere in the world, but they have now as well something that they wanted to put to this university as well, the original music, or how we call this type of folk music. And they started to use these schools, this website, and then, you know, it was very interesting that with this multiplayer, especially in the digital world, with the multiplayer you can create your own community, your own ensemble. So you learn one of the ladies or one of the informators, and you just turn her off or he's off, and you sing this together with the people. And somehow this was very, very popular in Ukraine. We also did some type of project that we asked them that, yes, learn something and record with mobile phone together somebody and put it to the YouTube, and we make some little project with this. But this type of virtual communities, I think it is very interesting, and there is a lot of potential on it. Okay, so that was the beginning of the folk ME, the folk music education, what I will now show you. Okay, I show you how does it look like. Yes, firstly, the polyphony project was also founded in the European Union, Creative Europe, and the partners were Ivan Honczer Museum Ukraine, Hungarian Musicology Institute for Musicology, and of course the polyphony company created the recordings. And now the folk ME is like created with the Sibelius Academy, and Vomex was also in the partner. This was Erasmus Plus project, what I will show you, and later I will tell you as well what will come in the future. So this is much more based on the revival movement, because the general idea was that we recording folk musicians from the cities. And because they are professional musicians, we were able to do some other additional techniques which we couldn't do in the field, in the Ukrainian field, in the polyphony project. And I will show you what was the addition ideas, what we didn't had in the polyphony project. First of all, you can see that this is the same type of logic in the website, this type of database logic. Very quick background, very good informatical support. You can choose here different languages, musical dialects, presentation techniques. You know, this is all the time can be customized. So this is now an example, and this project is still in the pilot. It's not published yet, so it's still a pilot project, and we're still working in the background. We try to publish this somewhere in the spring. And we even talking about that, do we need, I don't know, melodical range? Do we need rhythmical structure, or we don't, and so on. Many things is under discussion, maybe in the question answer you can also talk about it later on. Okay, and as you see, we were thinking how to design a project which can show different type of folk music, if there's such a things to say. So not only, for example, Hungarian folk music, but any type of, so to be such a software which can show in many different way, different type of music. And this is the reason why we had also Finnish recordings, and also we had Hungary and also from Ukraine, different partners, and it worked very much and very good. So now I will show you the structure. If you choose one of the songs, let's go in and let's check how is it, how these things looks like. Yeah, okay. So first of all, this is now, what we'll talk about, this is, so to say, one performance or one song. It's generally something like 4 or 5 minutes music. Different way, structurized, but 4 or 5 minutes music. First of all, we have music in YouTube, a total song. Let's listen a little bit. I stop now because we don't have much time. Very special music, only major chords here, so it's good for punk bands as well. But altogether, as you see, we have, so firstly, one video which is in the YouTube. So here we can also give good quality folk music videos in YouTube. In Hungary, I don't know how it was in some other countries, it was all the time the things that if an institute or if somebody creating such a content, they don't put it into the YouTube because it has difficult stories and so on. But now it's actually changed. We really much putting everything to the YouTube just to people just be able to see it and be able to use it. Of course, here we can have this lyrics part. And the second, and here getting interesting because, yeah, here getting interesting. The second part is with the notation we have, as you see. So if we start to listen, and the same things that you can turn on and off the music. Even the bass player. And you remember we talk about this type of virtual community. And here up we have a roadmap. So if you wanted to listen the first couplet, the second couplet, and the third, then you just immediately jump to this place. So this is, for example, the third. And here you can turn off for example, the vocal. And you know, for us it is very important because in the Hungarian school system, if you want to show folk music, then coming a classical education people and they start to sing with bel canto some melodies, which is of course something, but if you can have this type of system like a karaoke that you, as I told you, URL address you have only, and anybody in the music school, they just turn on and you can immediately have the traditional background. So this type of song that the students just start to getting familiar with this sound. And I think this is something very important, what we have here. But of course, for instrument players, is of course, it's a golden mine, I think. Okay, so this is the second panel of this song. The third panel coming here every instrument we recorded in different way. So let's check the violin player, because this is, of course, here the most complicated player. As I told you, this is not my laptop. Somebody didn't pay the scraps subscription for... okay. So that was not our project. Okay. So here we recorded with a special camera techniques. So every recorded instrument you can slow down. So let's check, and with this special recorded camera and with this special camera technique, it's not shattering, but look at this. And with the bow, with everything, you can accurately check. Let's go back to the original tempo. And now we reach a very important point, I think, because, you know, in Hungary it was also, and I think everywhere, it was the things that how you can create so with the notation, you know, because they use notation because it was not really the possibility with recording with films and so on. So in the Béla Bartók time, they notated everything, and they tried to find the techniques how to notate in correct and proper way. But it was created such a complex notation that you just couldn't really replicate the original songs. And with these techniques, you can actually have everything, every little details, how they playing and how they doing. And that was the reason why we were talking about that. Is it necessary even doing the notation in the project? So let's check some other part, right? Okay. Maybe a bass player. Now you will see a Picasso painting. Yes. So just slow down a little bit as well. Sorry, internet is not really quick here, but tricking me. Yeah. Half tempo. Of course, in much more complex music and much quicker and everything, it's getting really the positive part. Okay. Right. I also wanted to show you some of the... So we have cimbalom, we have cithara, we have a lot of different type of instruments. Now I don't want to show you everything. I think you get the point. I don't know how much time I have, not much here. So I will finish now. And the most important things, because I think the whole problem, or if you just, yes, and we have also the score here if you wanted to download. You have the parts here if you wanted to download, and so on. And the fourth panel is, I think, very interesting, because the whole problem with this type of approach that we don't really want that the students exactly like this learning this. And they don't learn the improvisation of this music, you know. And this is the reason why we put the source here. So as you see here, these songs, what was recorded in the last, I don't know, from the January from the 50s in Hungary, from the last, I don't know, 70 years, it is collected here. So you can listen now a record in the same song, 1964. And so you can analyze the differences, the improvisation, the different type of approach, different players, and so on and so forth. So this is sort of knowledge hub, a lot of information collected in around one songs, and you can just analyze and you can just understand much deeper. So thank you very much. I think I finished now. Yes, with the question answer, I think. Yes. So Okay, so if anybody has a question, then I will continue. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Miklos. I have a question especially about when you started to talk about the community, the different recordings with the lines of the different singers. It's a technical question. Did you record each singer individually, or were they all together in the same place and you got to separate the voices of each of them? I ask you this because I work with traditional music from Spain, and if I try to make them play separately, it's not going to work. So
yes,
it's very complicated
because it's not working
line.
like that. Exactly. It's not working like that. We recorded bands together. And I told you there is a special miking technique, what we use. And we are talking about Ukrainian recordings, right? So in that point, you just couldn't do it separately. They don't even understand what you want. If they, yes, please sing your part, and it's not working. So we had to creating such a miking techniques, which is doing quite separately the things. So as you hear, it's quite separately. So you can just immediately understand what's going on there. So yes, there were no second records or second recordings or flexible or anything like this. No. So we just recorded it like this and with special miking techniques. Yeah.
Hi, this is so brilliant work you have been doing with these projects. How they are related to each other? Did I understood right that this is kind of next step of a big project, and how it is funded, like for in the future as well? Mm-hmm. Do you?
So firstly, in the future, now we created with the leading of Hungarian Heritage Halls and also the Hungarian Music for Institute of Musicology, and also the Liszt Ferenc Music Academy Folk Music Department. So these three institutes and the Polyphony Project team. So they created now a plan to recording around 100 recordings in the folk music education website. And this is how is it related that the Polyphony Project has the technical background, the whole database system, the IT background, the movie recording. It's quite complex in the background how to record it, because of course not the recording is very complex, but how you can do in huge volume. And everything is organized and everything is, and so this is, and the two or the three other institutions like the Music Academy, Hungarian Heritage House, and the Musicology Institute, they creating the material, the content. So they creating that which musician, what kind of songs we're recording, they doing the notation and so on. And this is how we doing together. And I think it's very important as well that this institution is, so to say, rarely cooperating. Now is getting better and better, but really doing this kind of big cooperation with civil societies and CEOs and so on. So I think it's very important to foster this type of cooperation. And in the future, this is what we want to do, that involve other countries as well. If you want as well to come to this project, that there is the software, we have absolutely the willingness to doing such a cooperation, and let's doing some common funds and doing such a things, and let's create such a project together. So we are absolutely waiting your ideas, and I hope that you like so much the project that we can work together in the future.
Thank you very much. I am filled with jealousy at such a beautiful project. I'm already thinking of three things that we'd love to do together. But before that, what interests me is the amount of work and negotiation you had to do before you started recording about what would we record, who would we record, why would we record this person, not that person, and how you negotiated common interests between so many partners. Mm-hmm. Was that? It feels to me that nearly all the work was done then, and then you turned up with the cameras and had some fun.
Exactly. Exactly,
Right.
that's the point. You know, it's very complicated what you're asking now, especially, for example, in Ukraine as well. Firstly, in Hungary, you know as well that it's very much cooperating the folk music industry with the science. And in this way, we all the time working like that, but we searching for scientists or institute who was working with folk music. But in Western countries, and the northern countries, it shouldn't be the only solution in that way. But in the eastern parts, for example, Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, and so on, this is the way how you do it. So firstly, you have an academy or something, and you negotiate, you show the project, and you discuss what you want. And this is a slightly complex thing, that you don't want to record some type of Moiseyev, stage folk music, which is not, fake lore or something. So this is how is it getting very complex to find these things, what we want as well, and for them is also very interesting and put together. So firstly, we have some kind of diplomatic and scientific conversation, and then we know what we want to do. We're doing a pilot project, and later on, if it's working, then we're doing some bigger amount of recordings. Thank you very much. I also bought you a little movie. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating, an incredibly complicated and long piece of work and detailed piece of work. I can see very much how it would be useful for conservatoire, for workshops for young musicians, so they can study in detail the way things are working with all these different genres and the different groups. I wonder how much this would be used or could apply to a broader audience, let's say really young children that you want to get interested in folk music, who are maybe not interested now. How could you use this project for that wider audience as well as skilled young musicians?
Yes, I think we shouldn't find this out. So we have a project which is, there is a lot of possibilities and a lot of tools inside in the website. And I think this type of methodology, what you're asking for, it's much more about the local teachers and local people how to apply to these people. Of course, in the folk ME, we also did different type of class test, that how they react and how they like it and what type of different way we can do. But for us, it's much more important to creating a very interesting tool, very good quality movies and audios, different tools, maps you have and information and database. And then this is much more, I think, the thing that the people who wanted to use this, they have to find out as well that how he want to giving a bigger narrative. But I also wanted to say that, for example, the Polyphony project website there is sometimes 100,000 IP address coming in 1 month. I think this is incredible. So if we are talking about broader audience, that this is, I think, kind of broader audience. And of course, there is not only professionals there is a lot of people who are just interested in it, or they wanted to find some songs what they listened from the grandmother and so on and so on. So I think this is all the time they discuss here in the Hungarian Heritage House, that can we do wider and broader audience and also to the professional together? And this is all the time they discuss. But I think there is a solution, a niche solution for it, I think. And there is also not the good answer that all the time to do the broader and to the professionals together. Sometimes you have to do only broader project and all the professionals project. But here we also try to doing some experiment to somehow connect the two things together. Right.
Well, thank you. That gives us hope for the use of technology for all people, I guess, for young people, professionals, and whoever. Thank you. That's the end of the session, but let's thank Miklos for an incredible project. Now, we're going on now. Let me come up here. We're going on to the discussion groups. And as I said earlier, the 3 discussion groups. Now, just before we go into them, for those people watching live stream, this may be slightly more difficult for us to organize. We don't have detailed cameras, but the cameras will be on in this room where one of the 3 discussion groups will be happening. So maybe in this room, who is using this room? Eric, on the education discussion group. Maybe you can use microphones to pass amongst people, if that's possible for the live stream. For the live stream people, the next presentation from here is at 5 o'clock Central European time on the Hungarian dance house movement. But now we're going to split into discussion groups. There are 3 groups, if you remember, and you can choose to be in one of them, whichever. In here, with Eric, Eric, can you just, yeah. In this room is a discussion group on education. Now, we've just heard about an incredible project, but you may want to broaden that project, that idea of education into different ways, and that's for you to discuss with Eric chairing. 2 other groups, one on green touring. I'm sure our colleagues from Finland will join that group also and get into more detail, and Dana will lead that group, and that group's just going to go outside into another room, just 1 second, and the 3rd group is on dance development. We're going to hear about the dance movement in the next speaker session, about the dance house movement, but Danny is going to lead the 3rd group, so please choose which of those 3 groups you want to go. If Danny and Dana, if you just come over here and lead the people in your group to the other room, and colleagues from the Heritage House will show where those 2 other rooms, and in here, the education group around Eric. If I can ask you perhaps to think about the balance of the numbers in each group, it would be good to have a good balance of numbers in each. So please make your choice. We will be very, very firm about time because, especially for the live stream, we must come back and begin the next session at exactly 5 o'clock. So a few minutes before the end, I'll call on the chairs of each group to wind it up.
of artists and also building projects, networking. So for this session we have 40 minutes. So what I propose is that first maybe we make a tour, because we don't know, most of us, who we are and what we do. Maybe 10 minutes we can give to that. And then we have 2 questions. So 15 minutes for each question, and that should be okay. And so let's start from here. That's the outline, you know.
Well, these directions, okay. So thank you very much. Actually, I'm Soma Salamon, and here I represent 3 institutions here. First of all, the Hungarian House of Music, which is a brand new institution and will be, it's about to be opened at the very end of this year or the beginning of the next one, actually. And there I work as the programming as the program editor and consultant in folk music and bird music programs. Also, I represent the folk music department at the Liszt Academy of Music, which is actually a partner for example, the projects of Miklós. There I work as a lecturer, and also I work in the Institute of Musicology as well, as an appointed research fellow. Yeah, and also I'm a practicing folk musician, and also I work in various research projects as an ethnomusicologist as well. Okay, thanks.
Yes, I'm Miklós Bot. You know everything. I think I don't want to tell too much, so I give it to the microphone to you. Okay, I will also tell that I'm generally a musician, ethnographer, and I think that's it. I show you many things from myself.
I'm Pascal. I'm from Belgium, and I help with the small folk festival in our county. And what I do there is I drive for the artists, get them to the airport or to the hotels, something like that.
Hello, I'm Marija Vitas from Serbia, from Belgrade. I'm an ethnomusicologist. I'm here on behalf of World Music Association of Serbia. In short, we are doing many projects regarding culture, heritage, music, world music, traditional music. So later, I would really like to talk in person with anyone who is interested in our work. We do many things, really, CDs, magazine, some other projects in culture and so on. So happy to talk with you more. Sorry for my throat problems these days.
Hello, I'm Janusz Pusinowski from Poland. I'm one of the founders of House of the Dance in Warsaw. I'm the director of Mazurkas of the World Festival. I run many activities at the field of continuation of traditional music, Polish traditional music, central Polish traditional music, which makes the difference. Myself, I'm a fiddler, harmonia player, singer, and pupil of village musicians. And I'm really fascinated with the work that is already done here, and how it could be used both for answering crucial questions, what for, and for realizing various projects, various ideas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Frank from Piranha Arts. We're a production company for WOMEX, Worldwide Music Expo for Classical Next. So a market, a conference, trade fair, and showcase festival. And for Piranha Records, Music and Publishing, and the Carnival of Cultures, which we organize in Berlin. And I'm part of the administrative part, so, but also with my colleague Christine Semba, I'm part of WOMEX Academy. And this is a new initiative, and we're very proud that we could be partners of FolkMe, because it's an amazing project what you did, and I will ask also about, yes, in Tampere, for the question of copyright, and so that's something where we try with partners like Sibelius or Goethe Institute. We try to give young professionals education how to enter international markets. So less on the music side, more on the music business side.
Én végül is hallgatóság lennék, bár énekmondónak tartom magam, kb. 40 éve, és és kipróbáltam az előbb a termet, bár a Vasas Művész Együttessel is voltam itt, és akkor se volt jó. És a vezető úr, nem tudtam, hogy ő a vezető, de meghallgatta, és nagyon szépnek tartotta, de ő is azt mondta, hogy nem jó a terem hangzása, úgyhogy tehát hallgatóság vagyok.
My name is Silvia Stasalova. I'm maybe the same like the first timer here, like observer, but I will be happy to become part of this network. I'm the Director General of the University Library in Bratislava. We are the biggest research library in Slovakia, in the capital of neighbor country, Bratislava. And what is interesting, our library is located in the wonderful 3 historical palaces, where are partly connected together with Hungarian history, because in our building, main building of our library, it was Hungarian parliament in the past. So, for example, Hungarian Academy of Sciences was founded in our library in that time, and also it was a place of many interesting historical events. For example, there was located in the past secondary school where, for example, Béla Bartók was studying, the famous folklore composer, collector of Hungarian folklore. Or, for example, we have a beautiful garden, summer reading room, where Franz Liszt, as a prodigy child, played his first concert in his life, like 9-year-old child. So, and besides, we are not just the research library, we are also the multifunctional cultural center, and we have a very rich collection of music archives. We have also one of the oldest music departments in Slovakia. And besides my interest on supporting cooperation between partners abroad, also from this point of view that we are a cultural center and music department, also I am here like, I am, besides being director, I'm also vice president of the Slovak Arts Council, which finance many cultural projects of various arts in Slovakia, approximately 30 million euro a year. And I'm also a member of Slovak Committee of UNESCO, so I'm also interested in cultural heritage task. And I was very much impressed by this polyphony project, so I will be happy to promote it and also invite you to conferences and maybe build the next cooperation. And also I would like to invite this network if you will be looking after the location for the next meeting. So our premises, our library, beautiful premises can be the place hosting you. So you are invited to meet in our premises next time. Thank you.
Hello to everyone. I'm Piero Cremaschi. I'm a Chilean guy based in Italy. I'm a sound engineer and working in a folk festival in Italy. Started 3 years ago, and well, I'm here to learn more about the folk music in Europe and his circuit.
Hello everyone, I'm Marco Carnemolla. I'm from Italy, from Sicily. I represent the Associazione Culturale Darshan, and one small festival that this association organized, the Alcantara Fest, and the European project, a band called New Folk Global Connection, and I am the technician, the sound engineer of this band, and also musician. So I really loved your polyphony project. As a technician, as a musician, it's very beautiful. So that's all.
I am Vince from Malta. I am not a musician myself, and I am only a very occasional event organizer, but I also tend to organize some events in conjunction with my education work. So I am actually an educator specialized in sustainable development. I teach full-time at the University of Malta, and I research, and I've been involved a bit in mapping social enterprise in Malta, and also I've organized a European conference on social enterprise and the arts, so I am a bit working at that level at the margins. But as they say, in the margins there's a lot of biodiversity. So.
Yes, okay, thank you everybody. So the topic is education. I think it's so large that we risk really to lose ourselves. But maybe if we see the timeline of the European Folk Network, I think one start that we had with education was the mapping of what's happening in Europe in this folk music scene, because I mean every country is organized differently. The reality is very different from the Nordic, from the Balkan, from Italy, Spain, and so maybe the first part of the discussion could be on this mapping, because we have started to make a first step, and now we're at kind of new stage that we want to develop, to get really a better map or access to some methodologies to work, or but okay, this is just my own interest with that, or already when people presented each one. So if you have some specific good practice or project that could be extend, or what you are looking for partners, so that's a little bit the discussion open on this.
Yes, actually good, because I'm here as a representative of an educational institution. So here in Hungary, actually, education of folk music exists in multiple levels. First, of course, it exists in elementary level in many schools, and in the past decades, actually in the past years, it had a large, how to say, boost in education, folk music education within elementary schools. Of course, it has some middle or high school level education of folk music as well, like in conservatories, perhaps, so folk music department in conservatory, and in the higher education, so in the university level, there's only one educational institution, which is in Budapest in the Liszt Academy, the very institution I came from, and also we have another institutions in not university level but in higher education, for example in Nyíregyháza. So I think compared to the size of our country, we have pretty much educational systems, educational institutions for folk music, what to say? So actually, actually I'm the next presenter in the conference session, so I don't want to kill all my jokes I would like to present. But what our main goal, perhaps, is in music education here in Hungary. At first, we would like to more or less follow the path outlined by you know the great masterminds of our ethnomusicology like Bartók and Kodály. And from these two people, actually, Kodály was deeply involved with music education in Hungary, especially from the 1950s onwards. So he is one of the main responsible individuals for grafting folk singing and folk songs into school curriculum. Yeah. So that's very important to find the principles laid by the Hungarian professionals of ethnomusicology, and also when it's about the practical way of learning of performance. Actually, we would like to maintain as closely as possible. So we would like, or at least attempt to somewhat staying close to the original and traditional manners of transmission of folk music, which, you know, once in its original environment, which in Hungary it's basically the rural societies, rural traditional communities in the countryside. So that kind of transmission, which there existed for centuries, and that kind of transmission, which was inherently formed the character of the folk music. It's very important to preserve, to follow. That's our mission statement, but one of our most important mission statements. And we in the Hungarian folk music education, we'd like to follow these principles. And partially because of that, I'm very grateful for the project, the Folk Me project by Miklós, since for this transmission in the original location, it was basically learning after hearing, and this kind of transmission and this kind of learning can work only if you have a master. And you know, the original village peasant musicians, masters, all as we call them, informants, they just with the seizing of the original rural environment, which was basically done in the past century, in the 20th century, the last representatives of these original village masters, who were the native, so-called native speakers, native users of their own musical cultures, they are slowly passing away. And with the passing away of these characters, for the next generations, there are less idols, less master figures in this context. And for this kind of learning after hearing, learning after seeing how do they sing, how do a master, how do an accomplished performer can handle the instrument, the original techniques. For seeing this, I think this software and this program, Folk Me program, it's extremely efficient. So I have great hope in this project, because that's a kind of answer for one of the most important challenges by the 21st century in front of learning traditional music, but in the meantime maintaining the close relation towards the traditional learning methods, and not going into notations, scores and stuff like that. However, as an ethnomusicologist, I consider them extremely important, since notation and transcription is very important. For example, if you would like to analyze a song, but if you are a performer and if you would like to learn it, it's how to say, as the old musicians said, that it's very important to steal it, and with this stealing process, you will be able to master at first the frames of that given locality's tradition, and within these frames you will be able to express yourself. So you will reproduce that musical style, but still you will reproduce it, adding your own individual performance for a certain extent. Okay, Miklós?
I think this was also I should conclude my Hungarian opinion as well, so I give it.
Okay, well, I'm not from the education field, so I cannot talk so much as my colleague did it. Yeah, I'm just wondering about the consciousness of young people toward folk music in each country. I can talk a bit about the situation in Serbia, because there are many, of course, folk music in Serbia is rich, diverse. There are many forms of singing, of playing many different traditional instruments, and many forms of traditional music is dying. For example, 50 or 60 years ago, we had a really rich bagpipe tradition, but it is dying. Only few young people are interested to practice bagpipes. Then on the western part in Serbia, we had a really, I call it usually endemic sort of singing in pairs, very archaic. It's called izvika. Also, there are many older people who are still singing it, not only at some folk festivals in Serbia, but also in everyday life. Neighbors will sing together at weddings, in tavernas, and so on. But these people are, 50, 60 plus. So I'm wondering how to improve that situation, how to involve young kids to be interested in music. Someone has to tell them this is important. They have to have opportunity to listen to it. I think it's coming from primary school. I don't know the situation in other countries, but as much as I know, in Serbia, little kids in primary school, they do not nothing about traditional music. And there are also some, for me, big mistakes. There are many these school books, for in primary school, like in the book about music culture in general, for first grade or second or third. And one of the newest was published with, the text about bagpipe tradition in north part of Serbia, but on the picture is a guy who is in the national clothes from the eastern part of Serbia. And no one doesn't matter, who cares? This connection between national clothes and the instrument, the type of instrument, that's not important. Why should we take care about it? So that's just one example, and that's the book for little kids, So that is my question. That is something I'm interested in. Of course, about workshop at festivals. I would also like to talk a bit with you, and you're leading a folk festival. Yeah, and what about that concept? So that's not World Music Festival, that's folk festival. Is it only something like regional, local stuff, or you include many traditions from different parts of the world? Do you have also space for workshops in traditional singing or playing? I'm not asking you now, but these are just some topics I'm interested in.
Okay, finally, I think I have to speak. Sorry, I'm Veronica. I'm from the organizer part, as you could saw downstairs at the reception table. So, I'm also thinking about this topic generally that Maria just mentioned, that it's a huge thing. It's very important to create universities, departments, big stages, big festivals. What about the kids? What about the families? The simple living families who are not involved in, I have to say, who are not involved so much in the culture. So they are just, they wake up, they go to their job and then go home and just, they watch the television and they have, you know, that they have. So nothing, how can I say, I don't want to say nothing, but just a very small piece of those things that we are talking about right now. So I'm very interested in a kind of opening or mindset changing method. Like how could we suggest or recommend something which is really not an existing thing among some people, you know. You want to say that, hey, let's buy this cheese because it's very good, but they don't eat cheese, never. So what's this? So first of all, you need to have good examples, I think, and that's I don't know if we need for this. I'm not sure if we need professional musicians. I mean, we need strong personalities, strong, you know, characters who can talk to people, first of all. And another part of this topic is maybe for me it's important to find a way to deal with a very problematic situation here in this part of the world, the immigration. So how can we teach those people who are coming from very far away, how could we teach them to learn a little bit our culture and to allow us to get to know their culture? So it's also a part of the education. I believe. This. So okay, it's just there are my thoughts about this.
Many questions. Yeah, a lot of questions. Lots of them are also mine questions, definitely, or our questions in Poland. We are not so blessed and happy to have Kodai and Bartok that were on one hand authorities, great creators, people who can say this music is as beautiful as the composed one. So this is the motto that is the founding sentence, founding idea for the movement that you belong to, that also lets scientists, musicians, fascinates, and simple people from villages meet, share not only scientific conceptions, ideas, but life, and also the ways of life. Because what you are asking for is perhaps the crucial question: is this traditional folk music something only for professionals that eat cheese and recognize good cheese and bad cheese, or could it be part of general culture as it used to be? It is called folk because it was popular. It was everywhere. It was life, or the culture could not exist without all these forms of celebrating life, celebrating community, birth, wedding, death, joy, sorrow, etc. This is what is this music built off. And what contemporary culture proposes, and as it works as a business, is producers, promoters, sellers, and buyers. Consumption. For people who come back from 8 hours work or 9 hours work, the big TV is exactly what they understand, wish, and relax. And so this is how it became mass culture. Everybody watches films produced by professionals, best films from Hollywood, anywhere. They create people's vision, how the life works, how the world works, etc. This is how it works. And sometimes we think, okay, schools, grand schools for little children, but what about families? How the kid who is 5, 6 years, he or she speaks perfectly his own language, usually knows quite much about the world, then school is something that could shape it, not change, probably. These questions in Poland used to be and are still very, very strong. These are also questions about identity. What's the difference? Do we differ only by the language, wearing the same things, etc.? And when we were starting our House of Dance much later than here, it was 1993, 94, we were like 5, 6 people that started to travel to villages and learn from musicians. They were like, what's going on? Nobody was interested in this music for 20, 30 years. Only some scientists recorded, analyzed, published for other scientists, and it used to be like this. There's no unity. Scientists have their own ideas, own purposes, own careers, and practice divided. None of them could sing, for example, could play and could show, look, here's the difference. This a bit higher, a bit later, a bit faster. That's his style, this style. So they don't have this experience also how it works. This is also bad experience. Anyway, so we don't have this support of strong brains that could be also authorities, like the professor said, this is really fantastic. No, it is like building from zero, even from -10, because in Poland, in the 90s, people and elite, the intellectuals, hated so-called folk music or national music, because it was fake folklore for many years, ensembles for stage, nothing common with reality, and these musicians were like disappearing culture. They were not invited anymore to weddings, not invited anymore to any events. The village was ashamed to have this music. So not zero, -10, let's say. That was the starting point for these 5, 6 young people starting to learn playing, learn dancing, and learn the whole knowledge, because it's not just the melodies, it's function. Look, I will play, they will dance more crazily, or I will change the note and see it will work like this and that. And then the word develops. And we were as crazy people. People ask now, why are you not playing Hungarian music? It's so beautiful and rhythmical. You're playing for this strange rhythms for 3 if it is 3, because nobody was sure what's happening there. So we were not invited to any festivals, any events like that. We could disappear from stage, but once we saw that when people started to dance, they start to understand the music, then they start to change their state of mind. They feel completely different after the dance and before the dance. It's like with alcohol. Yes, you can make theory. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway.
I think we have to. I think we have to drink a beer, okay, today,
yeah.
Because very interesting.
So I jump over this 25, 30 years, and exactly at this point, we creating also the network in Poland, for the traditional folk music network. We are at the point to try to propose to the Ministry of Culture the program for little centers for traditional music, how to support young people, any people who are able to teach, to share their knowledge, to share their knowledge how to play this music, in which situations, how to create these situations to animate a bit the society, and how to prepare it from each side. This is why I'm here also to learn. Sorry for my many words.
Well, thank you for insights from all of you. It's really interesting for me personally also to learn how, because we are so different. And Germany, of course, is different out of history. We have a broken relation with our own folk tradition because of the murders and the crimes, human crimes we all carry in our history, that there is a strange relation with the own music, which transforms. We had the Burg Waldeck, we had the folk movement, a strong one, but it's hard to say we don't have a national folk living tradition in Germany. And what happens in the music schools, I think the music schools are very important, is very depending on the individual teacher. Some teachers are very engaging with their own way how to engage young people. Also some realize that we are an immigration country now, so different cultures of diversity get a presentation, a stage to present the music, learn more about the music. So finalizing, I want to say that I think the combination of new technologies like the project of FolkMe or the polyphonic project in combination with engaged, as you said, engaging persons can revive, because the cultural expression through music should be for everybody and not just for a niche scene. And if we can achieve that, and that's why what you said, the mapping could be interesting, really.
Maybe just a short comment. I like very much the idea implementing some traditional folk dance houses during the big pop music festivals or multicultural festivals. So young people, they come there for stars, for various kinds of music, and there are places where they can learn dance, traditional folk music, and it's very popular. So we have a big festival, Pohoda, in Slovakia, so it is a long-term tradition like this.
Well, in my experience, I had the opportunity to work in different festivals in South America and here in Europe. In South America, it's very interesting to how the dance connecting the family, because the folk festivals on Peru or Bolivia or Ecuador, all the families go and dance with the music and sharing the moment. I don't know why here. For example, in Italy, we are working with the folk festival, and
it's difficult to involve the young people to come in and learn more about his traditional music. I don't know why, because I don't know. It's not popular, it's not, and the how we can find the key to involve the young people to participate in this festival is complicated, because the industry, the big one industry, is entertainment, and this is culture industry. Probably here or in this part have to change to find this answer to how you can connect a young people with the traditional music, because the other is just go and have a good time, have a fun time.
It's okay? Just to finish this, in Italy, maybe we need to teach music, traditional music. There are many traditional music in Italy, because it's so long, and I think maybe we need to teach at the primary school the traditional music. We miss this kind of teaching. That's all.
Yeah, okay, thank you for sharing. We have been taking some notes, and then tomorrow we'll have more time also to bring it, because we have a whole session about the future of the network, so what the network can bring around this issue, and I think we have some good ideas already, and we'll talk more, so you can then continue to share. I mean, informally, we have the whole evening, and thank you, everybody.
Let's continue tonight or tomorrow.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a work in progress.
Next session. The discussion groups have just gone a couple of minutes over, inevitably. We'll be with you in 2 or 3 minutes with the next presentation. which will in fact be the last presentation of the live stream today, and then we're back on right through the program tomorrow. You talking, as I can see. This is the last session, speaker session today. And for those in the room, sadly not for the live stream, but for those in the room, at the end of Soma's presentation, we'll just have a quick bit of organisational discussion about how to get to the Phono Music House and to the dinner in a short while after we finish the main presentation. So don't run away immediately Soma is finished. Give us a couple of minutes to tell you about going to the Phono Music House and to the dinner. Then for the live stream people, we start again with the main body of the work at 9:30 tomorrow morning. That's Central European time, don't forget. So, I had the pleasure a few weeks ago of meeting the chap you're just about to hear, and we all have the pleasure this evening of going to see a real live experience of the dance house movement here in Hungary. But to tell us much more about it and how it works, here's Soma Salomon.
Thank you very much, and thank you Nat for the introduction. So yes, I'm Soma Salomon. Actually, here I represent the House of Hungarian Music, the Liszt Ferenc Academy of Music, and also the Institute of Musicology, Budapest. That's not the first slide, actually. Menjus, ez nem az első dia. Okay. No problem about that. Okay, so however, I just took off my mask, but now I need to put on my mask again, the mask of the folk music historian and also the actively involved performing folk musician, in order to give you a brief insight to this Táncház movement, Táncház mozgalom, something we Hungarians are really proud of, and which is actually also granted to get included. Got included into the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage program. And now I would like to briefly involve you in and briefly introduce its academic roots, because this stance has Mozgalom will celebrate its 50th anniversary next year, and I would like to briefly talk about its antecedents. So the work of Hungarian ethnomusicologists and folk music collectors and folk dance collectors, and also I would like to outline perhaps what are the most important reasons of the success of this revival movement, folk music and folk dance revival movement in Hungary, and also I would like to show its current structure. Maybe not so detailed way, but we don't have too much time. Its current structure, as well as its achievements, and it's also its challenges for the upcoming years. Okay, so first let's start with the academic development in folk music research, Hungarian folk music research, until the early 1970s. Why until the early 1970s? Because the dance has movement was started in 1972, so when we speak about its antecedents, we have to, speak about the history of Hungarian ethnomusicology until that time. So by the end of the 19th century, basically the village intelligentsia in Hungary, then part of the Austro-Hungarian kingdom, started to be interested towards the vernacular culture, and started to be interested and in some ways started to idolize peasant societies, rural societies, and traditions and the folklore of these societies. From this atmosphere, within this atmosphere, the notion and the impetus for documenting and collecting folk music material, folklore material was just that was the notion in this atmosphere, and that's why the first music collectors and folklore collectors started to collect folklore material in the Hungarian countryside, rural countryside. Actually, the first recordings were performed by an individual called Béla Vikár, who was a folklorist and a folk collector. And basically, he used that time the wax cylinders of the phonograph to capture folk music, invented by Edison. And actually, he was the second one in the world after its very inventor, Thomas Edison, who used this device to capture folk music in 1896. And he was actually the first one in the European continent to do so. His recordings were mostly done, by the way, by 1904, when a young composer, a just certified composer called Béla Bartók, heard a peasant song in Gerlice Puszta, in a country mansion, a song of a Transylvanian Székely handmaiden, and that was a moment of eureka for Bartók, because he fell in love immediately with Hungarian music, and he just decided to dedicate the rest of his life to collect and to systematize Hungarian folk songs. He and his fellow colleague Zoltán Kodály, they just achieved a very great and immense work in collecting folk music and not only collecting and recording folk music, folk songs in the distant, remote and poorly accessible villages of the countryside in the Carpathian Basin, but they also started to evolve a very complex and very comprehensive and extensive tune analysis and typology in order to classify these tunes into melodic strata. They were the first ones to enlighten how the complex approach towards folk music,
towards the interpretation of the phenomena in folk music. It's how important it is. So not only from the way of the musicologist or from the view of the musicologist, but similarly from the viewpoint of an ethnographer or a cultural anthropologist. They, especially Bartók, by the way, made a tremendous and vast amount of non-Hungarian ethnic music and interethnic relations. In fact, he collected more Romanian and Slovakian tunes than Hungarian tunes, and it was very, very important to him to discover all the interethnic relations between Hungarians, ethnic Hungarians in the Carpathian Basin, and their ethnic neighbors, because he was the supporter of the very important fact and idea that these ethnicities in the Hungarian countryside or in the countryside of the Carpathian Basin, they coexisted with each other very peacefully, and there was a lot of shared cultural elements, shared songs, shared tunes between these ethnicities, and the research of these inter-ethnic relations was very important for Bartók, and actually it's one of the most important questions and one of the most interesting fields for Hungarian ethnomusicology in these days as well. Also, and because we are speaking about the dance house movement, it was very important to him also to find to define actually the music-dance relations. So if you can, by the way, some of his most important works are translated to English. If you read, for example, the Romanian folk music, which is an anthology of many copies and many volumes, and in the first volume, which is about instrumental music, he outlines and he describes certain dance cycles. So also he illustrates dance with illustrations and archive photos. So the dance and the music relation, even for Bartók, it was very, very important. Also, we can imagine that by the time of his death, he collected some 13,050 items, which means collected tunes, and all those tunes were only the Hungarian tunes. The Slovakian tunes, the Romanian tunes were even more numerous in the collection stock of Bartók. And beside of that, also he collected, by the way, South Slavic music, and also helped, I'm just looking for our Serbian colleague here. Yes, also he helped a lot to George Herzog in New York to transcribe the Guzlar heroic songs in the Perry archive, I believe. So he was deeply involved with interethnic relations. After him, and based on his and Kodai's guidelines, and actually initially he was also a mentor of this program. In 1936, a very important collection program was started in the Hungarian radio, called the Patria series of gramophone disc, where informants, so original native peasant masters of music and singing, were just brought to Budapest, and they could record their music in a studio environment of contemporary studio environment, which was the most important and the largest collection program of the first half of the 20th century. Okay, and based on these antecedents, the academic development in the folk dance research. So based on these antecedents, the comprehensive collection of folk dances in the Carpathian Basin, Hungarian folk dances in the Carpathian Basin, and also non-Hungarian folk dances, could start. From the Hungarian side, the most important character in this work was György Martin. He's the guy with the glasses at the upper left corner, who together with his fellow researchers, his colleagues, provided and could collect thousands of hours of folk music recordings and folk music and folk dance recordings, and could capture folk dance on videos. And also started the complex ethnochorologic approach and analysis for the folk folk dance too. By the way, he was also the founding member of ICTM's Ethnochorology Study Group, the International Council for Traditional Music. These ethnochorologists and folk dance researchers, by the way, had an early history, which they were dancers in the professional ensembles after the Second World War. However, the early history of professional dance ensembles, like the early Hungarian State Folk Ensemble, which is currently resides here in the Heritage House, they were basically not authenticity-based ensembles, but they were more related to the socialist, realist agenda of entertainment and stage dance, which was a common narrative in the satellite countries of the Eastern Bloc that time. Which, you know, in form it should have been, or in form it was ordered to be national in form, but in topic it was ordered to be socialist, but without regards actually on authenticity in adherence to original material from the countryside. Actually, so some of these ethnochorologists started their dance career there, but after that they just started to find new paths and started to investigate how the folk dance looked like in the countryside. And this notion to go back to the original source, which by the way was also the notion of Bartók in folk music, that's very important, because this notion is also the basic principle for Táncház. Beginnings of Táncház mozgalom, the Táncház, the dance house movement. Actually, the very first Táncház was held in 1972. Martin György, you know, in the previous slide, he was the bridge between the revival, the youngsters, the young people in the revival, and the academic society. So he could communicate the most recent results of that time, of the ethnochorology, of the folk dance research to the youngsters. So he could help these young people who started the dance house movement together. He could provide actually the original recordings. He could give them some professional guiding, how they should master these dances. So at the beginning, one of their most important aim was to open the dance house, open the learning process and mastering folk dances for everyone, because it was available until some extent for members of dance ensembles until that time as well. But the Táncház mozgalom started something new, where they just declared that everyone can, anyone can come in from the streets, and that was very important, because that's also a very important declaration for the spirit of the Táncház, which is actually was always and must be always actually an open and welcoming society, welcoming community actually. So what were the most important principles of the Táncház method? It created a new form of social entertainment in the urban environment. So it just started to graft the original folk music, original folk dance in the urban environment as a completely legitimate form of entertainment. It meant primarily off-stage activities. So there is a very famous quote from Csóri Sándor, one of the founding musicians of the Táncház mozgalom, that it was a very, very good thing when the folk music and folk dance just started to appear on stages. He meant authentic folk music, but even a better thing when all of these things went off stage. Which is actually off stage is also that was a kind of popular movement, and that made it capable to become a popular movement actually. All the participants, almost all the participants, especially in the early years, folk dancers, folk musicians were involved deeply in fieldworking and in enriching the still existing amount of collected music and folk dance with additional, I don't know, thousands of hours of recording. So they just started to go to the countryside and to go to remote locations of the Hungarian language area where, because in the 1970s and 1980s there were multiple locations where folk music and folk dance was still alive and practiced, particularly, for example, in Transylvania, and because Transylvania is now part of Romania, to get to Transylvania, it was not easy that time, actually, especially for Hungarian young people. But they could manage it, and they could sometimes trick the state police, the Securitate, in order to get more and more recordings and to capture everything they can. Because in the 1970s, 1980s, that was the those 2 decades were, I think, the last 2 decades where they could capture something from the once thriving rural environment where folk music and folk dance was evolved. So everyone just felt involvement in field recording very important as an own mission. They also maintained the authentic performance, and we do. That's one of the basic principles of the Tanzhaz method, to maintain the authentic performance based on the available field recordings. So that's very important. That at first, it's crucial. It's crucial to learn. Which learning does not mean, and it's very important to highlight, does not mean copying, but to learn in principle, in performing manner, the original frames of the tradition, and with respect of the local characteristics. And that's very important because in Hungarian folk music, we and in the Tanzhaz Mozgalom, we as the participants of the Tanzhaz Mozgalom put very special emphasis on keeping the local characteristics of a given collected material, to being close to this, because as a usual Tanzhaz member believes, that's something which will give the unique flavor to that very particular given tradition. And that's why, by the way, we know our folk music and folk dance by sometimes, especially if we speak about Transylvanian tradition, by village, and we can so we can speak about this, and it's very important to adhere to these local characteristics, and also to try to achieve free performance in folk dance and in folk music, both within the frames of this mastered tradition. It's very important, and it's obviously the legacy of Bartók to being open towards other ethnic traditions in the Carpathian Basin and beyond, including the various ethnicities and ethnic traditions living together with us in the Carpathian Basin, and also the ethnic minorities. But doing so without the appropriation of traditions belonging to other ethnicities, because if you take a particular tune in certain locations, it can be considered Hungarian, but in another location it can be considered Romanian. So that depends on the very society, very traditional community it uses the given tune, the given folk dance. So that's a certain extent of abstraction is also needed, but actually academic ethnomusicology can be also very helpful with this issue, and the Hungarian Tanzhaz movement is, from actually the onset, is very open towards other ethnic traditions. Just to mention an example, that besides of the music of Szék, which is a Transylvanian village, and it served as a kind of benchmark for the Tanzhaz movement. Actually, the word Tanzhaz is also something which is imported from that tradition of that very village. Another very important material at the very beginning, it was the dance material of Mékerék, which is a Romanian community, but within the borders of current Hungary. You know, their dance and their music, it's at first hand their music it's very archaic regarding of the I don't know, performing manner of the fiddle and other traits in performing manner, and also their dance, and on the other hand their dances are very attractive. So it was very important, and so this approach towards other ethnic musical cultures, it's also one of the most important fundamentals of Tanzhaz method. The Tanzhaz started to be and rose to success soon. What are actually the reasons behind, or what I think the reasons are behind the success of Tanzhaz? So at first, it has different levels of difficulty, different levels of entry, different levels of difficulty in dances. So, for example, in the upper image, you can see a Tanzhaz. There are actually two very important wings of Tanzhaz movement. In the upper image, you can see there's a circle dance, which is particularly typical in Moldova. Which is another region in Romania where a significant population of Hungarian minority lives, and their dance also are the part of the Hungarian Tanzhaz movement, and they use mainly circle dances. And these circle dances are easier to master, and you can join anytime. However, at the lower image, you can see a couple dancers dancing way more difficult couple dances, which actually you need some time to master these dances. So you can join to the Tanzhaz as an outsider, but if you have time to master it and try to be more and more professional, you can get involved more and more into the Tanzhaz. So it's like, you know, achieving levels or level up. And it's very important to balance between the collective nature of the folklore, since a lot of the folklore's elements are collective, since they are representing the collective creativity of the society and the collective creative instinct of the society, but also they are fields for individual expression. And I think this approach gives a pretty good balance, so you can sense the experience of togetherness, which is actually the last point here. But at the same time, you can provide some opportunity for yourself to improvise and to feel free yourself within these frames. And also it has, because of the thing I just explained in the last slide about paying special attention to the local peculiarities of certain musical styles from village to village. It has actually, the Hungarian Tanzhaz consists of, and the repertoire of the Hungarian Tanzhaz consists of wide and diverse selection of various dances and musical styles. So there are a lot of things. So instead of uniformization, you have a lot of heterogeneous and diverse musical and dance styles. You can pick your favorite from. You can choose this or that, and also you can master multiple dance styles, and that's why it's very important. The folk music and the folk dance, it's perhaps a cliche, but historically it was always considered as it was always a living thing in the rural societies. It was always considered as historical and contemporary at the very same time. And because of this paradoxability, it has an actual message for people of all days as well. So that's why it was it could be and it could become a very quickly a popular form of entertainment even in the urban environment. And perhaps in the music education session before, I just try to talk about this. And you know, in learning folk music in the Tanzhas movement, there were really efficient attempts for grafting the traditional manners of transmission to urban environment. I mean, traditional manners of learning. So instead of, you know, notation, scores and transcriptions, which are, by the way, very important for academic sciences and for analysis and for research, the Tanzhas musicians maintained or tried to maintain the way of learning after hearing, for example, and when there were informants and when there are informants still in the countryside, perhaps it's obligatory for a Tanzhas musician or a Tanzhas dancer to go there and try to learn directly from the very source of the folk music. And, you know, because it's historical and contemporary at the same time, it's also very good in satisfying social needs for entertainment, even in our days. Also, a universal code for expressing emotions, and, as I just said before, to create the experience of togetherness. Okay, the main achievements of the Tanzhas for now. At first, it had a worldwide spread, and not only, by the way, the Hungarian communities all around the world. I don't know if I can tell you about a lot of American Hungarian communities or Australian Hungarian communities, or generally the Hungarian diaspora where Tanzhas is very popular. But even the non-Hungarian speakers and the foreign communities usually, or not usually, but sometimes get involved with the Tanzhas, and they like it. For example, in the United States, multiple dance ensembles, Hungarian folk dance ensembles exist, and not a single member of them speaking Hungarian. Also, Hungarian Tanzhas movement had mutual impact with the revival movements of our neighbors and other ethnicities in the Eastern European and the Central European region. So, for example, the Slovakian revival movement had mutual impacts with the Hungarian Tanzhas, and I think Mr. Prushanovsky has many stories to tell about his encounter with Hungarian Tanzhas, and perhaps in the phono this night he will be able to tell it with a beer or something like that. So. You know, for example, Mr. Prushanovsky is known in Hungary as a founder of the Polish Tanzhas. That's how we talk about you, actually. Also, it inspired and initiated the Tanzhas, initiated comprehensive projects of folk music collection. For example, one folk music collection initiated by director László Kelemen and the Phono Music Hall, the Last Hour program, which could be compared actually to the Patria gramophone program I spoke about in the 30s. It was the most comprehensive and extensive recording program of the second half of the 20th century. And other folk music collection projects, and also collection projects, for example, like the polyphony project Miklos just described and just introduced us. It also created a uniquely abundant stock of collected material of folklore. So actually the Tanzhas movement and its members contributed a lot to enrich the still existing and immense ocean of recorded, field recorded material of Hungarian and other ethnic folk music. It also succeeded in successful and efficient repatriation of traditional music and dance in many original locations. For example, in certain Transylvanian settlements where there was only just a few years gap between the seizing of the tradition as its original form, but I don't know, 5 to 10 years later, it was reintroduced by the Tanzhas and repatriated in that very locations, and I think it's an obvious success. However, you know, the notion behind nurturing those dances and music on those settlements is a little bit different, of course. But anyway, it's a success of the Hungarian revival. It also contributed to support the presence of traditional music and dance in the Hungarian education. One of the leading figures for this, by the way, was Kodály, actually, even before the Táncház, because from the 1950s onwards he did a lot for supporting the presence of Hungarian folk music in education. But thanks to the Táncház, and thanks to the Táncház being the increasing number of the Táncház funds and becoming a popular movement, the need to represent more and more folk music in our folk music education was also increased. It also, thanks to the Táncház, numerous anthologies of traditional music and dance could be published in the past decades, like book series, CD series, or virtual databases. And there are actually a lot of virtual databases in Hungary where everyone can access collected Hungarian folk material, like the folklore database by the very Heritage House, or the Hungaricana database by the Institute of Musicology, and also the dance film, so capture dance film database, also by the Institute of Musicology. So for an average individual now, you have a lot of opportunities to go online and gather material and to learn and to listen and to enjoy. And also Miklós just working on further fields and further platforms to get involved with folk music and traditional music and traditional dance, of course. So just mention the most important supportive institutions for the Hungarian revival, the Táncház movement. This very Hungarian Heritage House and also its network institutions, Director Kelemen just mentioned in his introduction speech at the very beginning of this conference. Also the Institute of Musicology, the Folk Music Department at Liszt Academy, the Phono Music Hall, you and we will all go there, I believe, this evening. Also the House of Hungarian Music, which is actually a brand new institution about to be opened. The Hangvető, which is a company of sponsoring and sponsoring and organizing folk music, world music, folk music events, world music events, and so on. And I believe the CEO András Lelkes will present, who's CEO of Hangvető, so presenting this very conference. Also in Transylvania, the Kallós Alapítvány, named after the famous folk music collector Kallós Zoltán, who contributed to the stock collected in Transylvanian folk music greatly, as he's considered perhaps one of the most important folk music collectors of Transylvanian Hungarian and Transylvanian Romanian folk music. And also the professional dance ensembles like the Hungarian State Folk Ensemble, which now turned towards authenticity-based performances in the past decades, and thanks to the Táncház movement actually, or the Hungarian National Dance Ensemble, and some foreign Hungarian dance ensemble beyond our current borders, like for example the Hargita ensemble in Székelyudvarhely, or the Maros ensemble in Marosvásárhely. And what are the issues of the future? First, Táncház movement must answer the challenges of the 21st century. Basically, I think that these challenges are technological, but within these challenges, the first presentation had a very important issues we also have to challenge. We also have to answer. The Táncház movement must or should maintain the firm fundamentals of authenticity, because that's a very important benchmark. Must be consistent concerning the traditional social environment, historical and cultural factors forming folk music and folk dance, but must keep being an open and welcoming community for everyone. And we have to maintain the firm fundamentals of authenticity, because therefore we will be able to provide solid benchmarks for example, crossover artists and everyone who would like to work with folk music and folk dance as raw material. And also, the Tanzhas movement have to manage to keep distance from ideological affluence. So that's also kind of legacy of Bartók, who was actually beyond any ideologies, which actually he could manage at the beginning of the 20th century, which was how to say tormented by destructive ideologies. But Bartók could keep the distance from these ideologies, and then, that's also very important for Hungarian folk revival, and in my humble opinion, to every folk revival all around the world. And also, it's very important to cooperate with the academic disciplines in order to investigate recent phenomena in the revival. So, for example, the still living informants, village informants. That's just one example of this phenomena, this recent phenomena. They are sometimes involved with the dance house movement for decades, for 2 or 3 decades, and which means that they were removed from their original environment, where they had to provide music once. In their original environment, perhaps there's no social need anymore for them to provide music, to provide dance, but they are just relocated, translocated to a way larger village, actually the urban environment, to Budapest, and sometimes the mutual impacts between the dance house audience and the informant, sometimes it has a feedback on the informant. It modifies the feedbacks, modifies the informant's repertoire, performing manner, and these are actually very recent phenomena, and these are very interesting fields for the academic research. Also, we have to cooperate with I think academic disciplines like linguistics, so ethnomusicology and linguistics. Actually, it's a kind of treasury of cooperation. So that's what I think are the issues of the future, of course, along with widening the international network and international cooperation for Tanzhas. Okay, so that's all. I don't know if we have any time for questioning and answering, but in advance, thank you for your kind attention. Okay, just if anyone has a question, and I'm going to try to answer it. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions, really. I will make the first. Let's see. Those principles that you mentioned were explicit at the beginning. Did someone wrote them, or are just developed intellectually after this movement?
Yes, actually, no, these principles are basically inherently part of this movement. That's why I just wanted to explain these academic roots, because they are just a kind of, how to say, those principles are basically related to the legacies of the antecedents of the Tanzhas movement. So they were not artificially created after it. If that's what your question is directing to.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean after the movement developed, you realized those were the principles under this movement, but it's not that someone wrote those principles and the movement started with those principles written, like the Bible, let's say.
Yes, yes, it's a very interesting question. So it's how to say, it's again, I can say that, you know, those principles were even formed by Bartók and Kodály, so the first music collectors. Then Kodály, for example, Martin, who just mentioned, he was guided by Kodály, and the Tanzhas movement was guided by Martin. Okay, so those principles are defining the revival movement.
Okay, can I make another one?
Yes, of course.
You have mentioned several reasons why this movement was successful. Many of them will apply for any kind of dance, even for rock. Before this talk of you, we were talking about the development of dance in one of the separated groups, and we were thinking that the question was that something was lacking for this part of the society that this movement fulfilled. We didn't know what was lacking, but maybe you can think about what was this fulfilling, which need was this movement fulfilling for the success.
Sorry, could you please describe it otherwise?
Yeah. Most of the reasons you have mentioned as reasons for the success of this movement could apply for any other kind of dance. We were talking, for instance, about bal folk in Belgium. Many of these reasons that you have mentioned will also apply for any other dance, like different levels of entry, creating the experience of togetherness. Many of those could apply for any kind of dance.
Okay.
So why was this dance at this moment the successful movement? What was the lack in the society that it came to fulfill?
Okay, I see. You know, it's, by the way, it's a very interesting question. So, you know, at first, in that time, by the way, at the beginning of the 1970s, Hungarian society had very poor access also for social entertainment types, and also it had some how to say kind of need for resistance against the socialist regime. So together with this, how to say, the need for freedom, it was the effect, like you know. So, for example, just to perhaps with this example, I can enlighten this question that for the first dancehall musicians, they loved the Transylvanian, the sound of Transylvanian music and the Transylvanian dance, because it was very similar and very resembling to them to the rock bands like Rolling Stones. So it was a little bit of forbidden fruit for them. It was kind of rock and roll for them. And actually, you know, if you are getting involved with the Hungarian folk dance, you will also find that it's rock and roll. You can ask Janusz if you would like to. So it was something which they could not get from other source. From another source, so it sounded like rock and roll. It was something to go a little bit, how to say, a little bit badass. So a little bit against the machine, against the system, against the satellite machine of the Eastern Bloc. So that was something which the society was lacking. If I hope that's what you refer to, yeah, and perhaps I missed it from my listing, but actually it's a very important point. But sometimes, you know, I hear this point too many times, so sometimes I think it's a cliche, but it's very important. And thank you for pointing out for this. And by the way, if you are further interested towards the history of the dancehall, I can recommend you a wonderful documentary created by a long-time fan of Hungarian folk music and dancehall, the British Simon Broughton. I believe there are many people in this room who know him. And he created some 2 years ago a wonderful documentary called Repülj Madár, or Fly Bird Fly, which is I think a beautiful conclusion of the history of dancehall movement. And it's actually in English, so I can recommend to watch the movie of Simon to all of you, if you did not do it yet. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, actually. But actually, if you have any further questions, I think I will spend a little time in the phone this night, so we can talk there.
Yeah,
thank you much.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. What a great presentation to finish the afternoon. And as Soma says, we're going to the, I'm sorry, live stream people, we're going to the dance house this evening, and we'll really learn emotionally and physically as well as intellectually how it all works. And Soma will be there, can take you aside, maybe buy him a drink, and then he'll tell you all the other information that you need to know. He's driving, have to be a soft drink or a coffee. So, thank you. That's a fantastic way to end the afternoon, really strong. To those people in the live stream and our technicians, thank you for running the live stream. I think you can say goodbye now to the live stream people. Thank you very much for staying with us. Don't forget, indeed, don't forget that we start again. I've left my piece of paper on there. We start again early tomorrow morning. Thank you. We start again at 9:15 Central European Time.